What is up and welcome back, it's Govos, and today we're going to be talking about the new hit game Valheim. Today's video will be the first in a series of Biome Breakdowns featuring the Meadows. This video will contain some minor spoilers about the Meadows biome, such as the boss or unique item that it drops. If you're looking for a spoiler-free progression overview of Valheim, there will be a link to my other video on the screen now. In all of the Biome Breakdown videos that I do, we will go over all of the resources, creatures, points of interest, while also discussing any important and relevant information for both new and experienced players. This game definitely does not hold your hand, so knowledge is power. Jumping right into the juicy details, the Meadows biome will be the first video in this series, and the video we're going over now, since it's the first area you start in and where you're initially dropped off at. Speaking of being dropped off, just a quick tip here that I often see overlooked. In the starting area, you'll notice that there's a lot of stones with some engravings on them. One of the stones that the crow lands on while explaining a bit about the game for you has some red engravings on it. Make sure you interact with this stone to mark the location of the first boss so you don't have to go wandering around looking for it later on. So this video will have three main categories. These categories will be resources, points of interest, and creatures. We'll also touch base on any important and relevant information as we go through each one of those. The first one on our list is going to be resources. These will be any of the items that we can harvest, pick, or find within the Meadows biome. The simplest ones will be mushrooms, dandelions, raspberries, flint, and stone. Mushrooms and raspberries will be easy to acquire early game sources of food and important cooking ingredients for later on. Dandelions early game aren't really useful other than taking up stash space and looking pretty on the ground, but later on they'll be used for meads, so you could hold on to them or just come back and pick them later. Flint is going to probably be one of the most used resources other than wood and stone. Flint is only found near sources of water such as rivers or oceans, and is extremely useful for early game items such as the flint axe to use as a weapon or for cutting trees, the flint spear, flint knife, and the one you'll probably go through the most of, which is flint arrows, so I definitely suggest hoarding some flint. Stone, at this point in the game, or early on, can only be acquired by picking up small rocks found on the ground. You won't be able to mine stone until after you've defeated the first boss, since the first pickaxe you can craft requires an item from that boss. Other resources found in the Meadows biome will be wood, fine wood, beehives, and chests. Wood is simply acquired by picking up branches that are laying on the ground, punching small trees, or chopping down the larger ones. Fine wood can't actually be obtained at this point in the game until you defeat the first boss, make your way to the second biome, and craft yourself a bronze axe. But it's useful to know that birch and oak trees will drop both regular and fine wood. Fine wood will be used in various crafting recipes to make better items, tools, and different parts. Beehives are found in abandoned houses, and in my opinion, are one of the most valuable resources in the Meadows biome. This is due to the fact that you can actually harvest these and create a honey farm for yourself. Honey, just as a raw food, has the highest HP regen per tick at 5 health, although it's a rather short duration compared to other foods at this point in the game. Honey is also used in various important types of mead, as well as the serpent stew, which is tied for the highest overall base stats of any food in the game. Once you start your own honey farm, each beehive takes approximately 20 minutes to produce each honey. Each hive can hold up to 4 honey at a single given time, so make sure every 80 minutes or so that you check on your hives and harvest that honey. Just as a heads up, beehives will draw enemies' aggression, causing them to attack them, so I highly suggest you keep the beehives in either a fenced-in area or just outside of enemies' reach. The last two resources on our list will be two types of chests. We have house chests, which are also found in abandoned houses, and buried chests, which, as you could probably guess, are buried. Both of these chests have their individual loot tables and will contain 2 to 3 of the following items of various amounts. House chests will have amber coins, feathers, flint head arrows, and torches. Buried chests will have amber pearls, coins, fire arrows, rubies, and silver necklaces. Each one of these items has an equal chance to appear in the chest. So now that I've mentioned abandoned houses twice, this will be the first one on our list under the next category, points of interest. Abandoned houses can be found in both meadows and mountain biomes and are ruined structures made of wood, and depending on the type of structure can contain different types of furniture such as standing torches, chairs, tables, house chests, and beehives. Sometimes these structures can be easily repaired to serve as temporary bases, storage facilities, or an easy nearby respawn point if you decide to craft and place a bed in it. Our next point of interest will be the ancient stone circles. These are going to be 5 very large pillars of stone forming a circle. These are currently purely cosmetic and serve no purpose at this point in the game. Unlike the useless stone circles, stone graves can contain valuable items like bone fragments, coins, amber pearls, rubies, and silver necklaces. Just be careful because the occasional enemy skeleton could be lurking beneath. These graves are indicated by a large horizontal stone surrounded by smaller vertical stones, and you will need a pickaxe to mine them. Next on our list is going to be the Viking graveyards. These are indicated by the pattern of stones sticking out of the ground, forming the shape of the bottom of a ship. Digging in these areas can result in the discovery of buried chests. The next 2 points on our list are going to be fairly rare occurrences, so definitely keep an eye out for burial chambers and Draugr villages. Burial chambers, also known as dungeons, are typically located in the Black Forest biome. These can sometimes appear in the meadows. These chambers contain very valuable resources, yellow mushrooms, enemies, and the very important Cirlce cores, which are used for making charcoal kilns, smelters, portals, and a few other crafting recipes. So Draugr villages, if I'm even saying that correctly, are large clusters of abandoned houses found in the meadows. Many of these structures are unique to the villages and generally larger than abandoned houses found elsewhere. Some of the buildings within the village can contain body piles. These piles of bodies will continuously spawn Draugr and Draugr Elite until they're destroyed, but I highly suggest that you leave these spawners alone, which will allow you to much more easily farm for entrails, which are a drop from the Draugr and Draugr Elite. They're used to make sausages, which is a very important and potent early game food. Otherwise, the only way to farm for entrails would be going to the much more dangerous swamp biome and killing the Draugr there. So jumping into the next section, which is creatures, and the creatures that inhabit the meadows are deer, gull, boar, greyling, and neck. After defeating the first boss, you will also encounter Grey Dwarf, and defeating the second boss will introduce Grey Dwarf brutes and shaman to the meadows as well. For the most part, it's safe to assume that the more bosses you defeat, the more likely it will be to encounter stronger enemies in lesser biomes. Deer and gull are both non-hostile creatures, which will flee when approached. These are best taken down with ranged attacks, or by sneaking up on the deer. Gull will also fly away at random intervals, so shooting them quickly is going to be your best bet. Gull also drop feathers, which are used to make various items, but most commonly arrows, and odds are you'll be going through a lot of arrows, especially earlier on in the game. Deer will be your resource for deer hide for various crafting recipes, deer trophies to summon the first boss, and plenty of raw meat. Boars are hostile creatures and will attack the player if alerted to your presence, and are another great resource for raw meat, as well as leather scraps. Boars are also the earliest tameable creature and can be tamed by dropping mushrooms, raspberries, blueberries, carrots, or turnips on the ground, allowing the boar to eat them and acclimate to you if you're nearby. Once tamed, you can pin the boars in and breed them to farm raw meat and leather scraps relatively easily. There can be up to 6 boars within a 5-block radius. Each block is the length of a wall, and boars will breed when they're fed and happy. Boars' offspring also have a 50-50 chance of inheriting the rarity of either parent, indicated by the number of stars below the creature's name. If the rarity is equal between the parents, it will always result in the same tier or rarity as both of the parents. Neck are annoying little lizard-like creatures and are also aggressive, but they're an easy source of food early game. They will always drop neck tails, which can be cooked as an additional source of food, and later on they're also used in the mead recipe for poison resistance. Greyling are the earliest game true enemies of Odin, and they don't pose much of a threat, but they are the most consistent source of resin early on. You do have a chance of getting resin from cutting trees down, but it's a 100% drop chance from each greyling. Resin is used in quite a few recipes such as torches, flaming arrows, rafts, and others. It's a good idea to keep some handy. The Grey Dwarf Brute and Shaman will almost never be encountered in the meadows until the second boss is defeated, but both will drop Grey Dwarf eyes, wood, stone, and their respective trophies. The Shaman will also drop resin, while the Brute will drop ancient seeds, which are used to summon the second boss. Some extra tips for creatures and enemies alike: their rarity is indicated by the stars beneath their name. As a creature's rarity increases, you'll also notice cosmetic changes such as color, shape, larger horns or tusk, and things along those lines. The higher the rarity, the more loot you'll receive, but this also increases their health and damage. For each star or rarity tier, it will add the amount of base health to their total. For example, a regular deer has 10 health, 1 star has 20, 2 stars have 30. A deer doesn't pose much of a threat, but a Grey Dwarf Brute might. Their base health is 150. At 1 star, this increases to 300. 2 stars will be a whopping 450 health. For each star, the creature's damage will also be increased by half or 50% of the base amount. For that same brute with no rarity, it will do 30 slash damage. 1 star will be 45 and 2 will be 60. Just as a fun fact, and to put that all into perspective, a 2-star troll can hit you for up to 140 damage and have as much as 1,800 health. So this video ended up being a little bit longer than I would have liked it to, but I didn't want to leave out any information that could be crucial to helping you through this game. If you liked the video or if it helped you out, feel free to click the thumbs up. If you want to see more content, Valheim related or not, consider subscribing. It really does help me out quite a bit. And if you want to support the channel even further, you can always click the join button from my page for about $5 a month or 17 cents a day. But whether you did click or didn't click any of the things that I mentioned, I still appreciate you for making it this far through the video. And I hope you have a good evening, night, morning, afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you are. But thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos.